Have you ever wondered if you're having too much sex, or not enough sex, or just what the right amount of sex is? Well, I'm Dr. Lori Buckley. I'm a sex therapist, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. First of all, if you are liking the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button right now. And while you're at it, if you like the video, give it a like as well. I would really appreciate that. So let's talk about sex. How much sex should you be having? So what I used to say is, you know what? Quality is much more important than quantity. And if you're having really good sex, you probably want to have it more often. And if your sex is not very good, then you're going to want it less frequently. But that's not really a fair answer, and it's not completely accurate. Somewhat accurate. I mean, quality is important, and I do believe that if you can make sex better, you'll have more of it. But I also think that the quantity of sex, or maybe the pressure of quantity of sex, can negatively or positively impact the sexual experience. So I promise you, at the end of this video, I am going to give you an actual number. But first, I want to say that it is important to think about the people that are having the sex. Now, there are some couples who are on the same page. They want sex the same amount of time. I'm going to say they are rare, but they exist. So maybe they're just not that interested in sex, and they might have it on special occasions or every now and again. And if that works for them, fantastic. And you know it, ultimately it does matter what works for you and your partner. Unfortunately, the reality is it doesn't usually look like that. You more often than not have two people in a relationship who want sex different times or different amount of times, and sometimes even in different ways. So they would love to hear, okay, you should just have sex this amount of time. And that could be helpful and maybe not. But again, I am going to give you a number at the end of this video, because just saying, well, whatever works for you doesn't really give you a good enough answer, does it? And saying to make sex more enjoyable, you'll have more sex, that's helpful, but also not really enough. So oftentimes what happens is the person who wants sex more feels rejected a lot. So you have the person who wants sex more often than the other person, and they initiate or they ask or whatever they do to let their partner know they want to have sex, and the partner who doesn't really feel like having sex or isn't as interested in sex says no. And before you know it, they start feeling bad, and the person who is initiating or who has the higher desire for sex starts feeling also bad and rejected. And then it just starts to feel awkward and yucky. And then sex starts happening less and less. It also stops being as enjoyable. So you can see these patterns. So you're watching this video, I'm guessing you might already be in this pattern where sex is happening less often, or it's not as enjoyable or satisfying as you would like it to be or as it used to be. And it can start with that difference in desire. When somebody wants it more and somebody wants it less, and somebody's feeling pressured and somebody's feeling rejected. And that's why it's a good thing to have an answer to how often should we be having sex. So let's talk about what sex is. Now, a lot of times when people think about sex, they think it means intercourse. And, you know, intercourse is great and it can be wonderful, but it's not everything. Sometimes just being able to touch one another, and I have a lot of videos about that, on focusing on pleasure and not being so goal focused, not worrying about penetration or orgasms or erections, all of those things that can get in the way of enjoying sex. Sometimes just being able to give a massage or make out or dry hump or just touch and snuggle up, that can be really enjoyable. And if it is really enjoyable, it can lead to penetrative sex or intercourse or even orgasms. But when the goal is, okay, we have to have sex, and what the expectations of that are, oftentimes people don't even get turned on, especially the person who has a lower desire. So thinking that we have to have sex this many times, or we'll just have sex when we feel like it, neither one of those work. Again, unless you're both exactly on the same page and want sex in the same way at the same time. And that is rare. It doesn't happen very often. So I have a video about sex dates, and check that out. But I really do believe in that, because here it is, the magic number. I do believe that, generally speaking, and this is not written in stone, we'll call it written in sand, Couples who have sex at least once a week tend to enjoy it more. Here's why. If you are having sex when you feel like it or having sex very infrequently, it becomes too big, too much pressure. There's too much on the line. You also don't even know when sex is going to happen. The person who has less desire is like, oh, when is sex going to have to happen? And the person who has higher desire is thinking, when are we going to have sex? So that can be a problem. It starts to become this thing that is an obstacle to good sex or pleasurable sex, and therefore you're going to have sex less often. But if you are having sex once a week, maybe twice a week, it's something that if you do it right, and that's what we're going to talk about, it is something that you can count on. If you're the lower desire partner, you know this is going to happen. And again, when I say sex, I don't necessarily mean intercourse or orgasms. It also, when you're having sex more regularly or consistently, it can be more pleasurable. So that's why I believe in the sex date. So the sex date is we have sex every Sunday night, or every Monday morning, or whenever it might be. And all that means is that you are setting aside time to give each other pleasure, to receive pleasure, to feel sexual, to feel desired, to feel alive. And, if you do that and it feels good, you will end up getting aroused and probably having an orgasm or having intercourse. And if you don't, it's still going to be a good experience. So if you're having consistently good experiences without any expectations, then you're more likely to start to want to have sex more, and sex will become more enjoyable. Now, there have been studies where people who are having sex all the time, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, versus couples who have sex once or twice a week. Actually, the couples who have sex once or twice a week do report having more satisfying sex. Now, I'm not talking about new relationships, because new relationships don't count. We're under the influence of all kinds of crazy hormones. So new relationships, we can't keep our hands off each other. We want to have sex all the time. By the way, a really bad setup, because most couples who do have a really good sex life at the beginning, they expect that to happen. And then a year down the line, sometimes only 6 months down the line, sometimes as much as 2 or 3 years down the line, how come we're not having the sex that we used to? Because nobody can maintain that type of sex life. It's not going to be that. And it can still be good. It can still be better. I talked about that in my last video on 3 things you need to know about sex, how to make it better, but I'll tell you that consistency is one of them as well. So the right amount of sex to be having, the easy answer is as much as you want or as much as you don't want, except that's kind of a cop-out answer, because the truth is one of you probably wants sex more or less than the other. So having a sex date, something you can count on, looking forward to it, talking about it, not being goal-focused on intercourse or orgasms, it's going to be a better experience. It's going to take away all that noise of, oh, when are we going to have sex? So I hope you'll try it. I hope this helps. I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think is the right amount of sex? Put it below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if in fact you do. And I'm here to help. I had a little surgery, so I'm not looking as glamorous as I would like to, but you know what? It was more important for me to give this information to you, and it is important. I want you to be having great sex and great relationships and a great life, and I will do everything I can to help. If there is anything you want to know, any questions, any comments, anything you would like me to cover in these videos, put it down below, let me know. And I would be happy to do that for you. So I will talk to you soon. Bye, thanks for watching.